everyone and welcome to the Animezilia, and today we're going to be going over Astra Lost in Space, episode 10 of the anime series. Now before I get into this review, I do need to make a couple of things known. Number one, I'm currently in sort of the stage of moving into a different house / flat, which means this review is in a slightly different format. Where normally you would see my face and me talking to you directly, unfortunately, I haven't got my green screen available at this moment in time. So, hence a different format. The other thing is, I normally would reread the part in the manga that the episode that I'm reviewing covers. However, again, since all my manga is currently packed away or in the flat itself already, then I can't access volume 4 or 5, actually I think it's 5, to actually read the contents of this episode within the manga to see what they did differently. However, there will be a video coming up after the series has concluded. I'm not quite sure how long after, but there will be a video of me going over the differences between the manga and the anime to see what impact they could have had. So who knows, maybe stuff in this episode could come up. So then, it's a history lesson in space, as we have Paulina, who is from the planet Earth, that resembles planet Astra very heavily, but it isn't Astra. As we had at the end of last episode, Paulina was quite shocked and quite happy when she saw that it was Earth, but then obviously the shock came when she realised it was Astra and the crew didn't know what she was on about. But thanks to some photographic memory from Ares, and Ares being interested in history, well, the old sort of arc of history to be precise, Ares seemed to have some knowledge of some of the countries that were on Earth, like Russia, China, India, and so on. However, one interesting fact that arises as their history differs. That was a very poor sentence. Let me go back over that. However, one interesting fact is that their history, both Earth and Astra, the history of both planets differ. As in Astra's case, so the crew's point of view, World War III happens. But to Paulina's knowledge, World War III has been averted. It never happened. So this raises up a few questions as to what is going on. Something obviously isn't right. And it turns out that the main diversion was the Cuban Missile Strike. As in Astra's case, it's what led up towards World War III basically coming to pass. And in Earth's case, the missile strike is stopped, thus no World War III. Oh, and the crew doesn't also know what God is. When Paulina goes, "Oh my God, what are they teaching them at school?" The cast is like, Paulina, what's God? Now, if we're looking at this just as a general sort of point of view, we can speculate that something is seriously wrong here. Why does one person who's been in stasis for 12 years have a different memory and a different kind of recollection of the past, where these kids who have been living their whole lives on a different planet know nothing of it, or very little to this point of view? And since sharing is caring, we hear what the crew's history was like. And well, it led to world peace as guns were abolished, but after the nuclear war that lasted 2 months and wiped out half of the planet's population. So they achieved world peace in Astra, but it came as a heavy price. But then Paulina's story is different in the way that an asteroid was supposed to collide with Earth, killing all life on the planet within 8 years. Now, this would help to tell us as to why Paulina herself and her crew were looking for a planet that could sustain human life. But why do I bring all this up? Well, apart from this being the main opening part of the episode, all of the information here leads to the crew being shocked after Paulina explains about a plan to basically commence planetary migration to another planet. And this would be done by using an artificial wormhole. Yes, that's right, the wormhole that we see the crew get swallowed up by, and the wormhole that's been chasing the crew throughout is actually an artificial wormhole. And this wormhole was designed to transport one person or a group of people to one place to another. Now, the question does rise, how do they actually know where the destination is going to be? Like, how do they know that it was going to be Astra that this artificial wormhole was sending them to? This wasn't actually clarified or cleared up in this episode. Again, the manga might have done something better on that, but at the moment I can't look over. I like the fact, though, that throughout this entire part of the episode, all of the crew seem to be able to connect the dots in regarding the wormhole. And that the other side of the conversation, we have Paulina being skeptical of a potential conspiracy plot to cover something up, which obviously that piques my interest, as it shows that, something could actually have been covered up, because this show has had so many secrets that have been kept from us and from the cast throughout the entire series itself. Everything that we've learned from the Astra Lost in Space series up to this point has basically been secret upon secret upon secret being revealed. And, we have Uluga's brother basically saying something big, something's going to change the way we think of things. Plus, we have Uluga restating that his brother told him not to trust adults. So, just to go over a fact, that we have this artificial wormhole that sent people in the past from Earth to Astra. And now, the word wormhole sent the crew from McPack to Earth. And now, they're travelling from Earth back to Astra. It seems a bit ironic considering the reason as to why they were sent through the wormhole to begin with. Their originals wanted the clones, obviously the crew, to basically be lost in space, to die, to be never found. That's why they went through the plan of having someone send them through the artificial wormhole, knowing that it would directly put them above Earth. And we know that this Earth because from Paulina's story, she states that an asteroid would have hit, and Zack clears up that it's from the debris covering the sun that freezes the planet over. And then we get some good old, but not old, Ares action, as she springs up and changes the mood of this episode to a more relaxing one, as she stops the conversation, claiming that there is no point in arguing over theories, speculations. Plus, she adds comedy into this so far serious episode, especially when Kanata appears to enter her cabin, and thanks to some awkward dialogue and misunderstandings between the two characters, we have a bit of laughter. So it breaks up from the serious vibe that this episode has tried to have to start us off with. So the comedy introduction was actually quite nice and quite refreshing. And is it me, or did she look disappointed with Kanata's reason? As well as slightly embarrassed when Kanata asked to talk to her instead of anything else. To be honest, it could be either or, but I just thought it was pretty funny, the expression on her face. Kanata and Ares has some good chemistry and some good scenes together in this episode, and I'll talk about another one in just a minute. But before that, next planet. So then, Glenn. First impressions is that this planet looks gorgeous, and the wildlife seems a bit odd, but manageable. nothing seems too kind of, oh my god, it's going to eat me. There's no Turgons. There's no massive tsunamis that looks like it's going to engulf the entire area. There's no kind of weird sort of planet axis where the sun doesn't rotate from one end to another. You know, it looks like a pretty normal planet for the most part, with some stunning scenery. And I said about another scene between Kanata and Ares, and this other scene was very nice, as we have Kanata and Ares talking about home, and Kanata seems to be abusing his captain rights. As he states, because he is the captain, it's up to him to walk her home. I like this scene for two reasons. One, it was somewhat funny seeing Kanata trying to act all serious, but coming across as goofy. And two, Ares' reaction, as we all know her feelings towards Kanata, and this just makes her happy, and they bring her back, her quirkiness of her saying things. So, I know the manga did this a lot more from memory, but the anime doesn't seem to do this very often. But Ares would often say things like, for example, episode 1, she would say, "Beef, stop." She does the same thing here, where Kanata's like, meet up with everyone in the forest, and she says, heat up everyone in the forest, okay. So, I thought that was quite funny, added a bit more comedy, add some good character interaction between the two. All in all, good scene. But remember, there is still a traitor on the loose. Yes, although the crews seem to act like they're working together, there is still that looming traitor. And that brings us to today's issue, as the captain once again is faced with the wormhole, and just barely escapes thanks to finding Ares. Why that is? Who knows? So, then a plan is put into motion to find this traitor, as Kanata uses Charles and Zack to tell Uluga. He tells Charles and Zack that he thinks it's Uluga, and that, you know, they've got to corner him, as they believe that he is the culprit, but it ends up being none other than Funi. No, not really, I'm just joking. It's Charles. And Kanata knew all along, and wanted to trap Charles, not Ulga. The whole crew was kind of shocked, but Ares, being the one who really showed her feelings of sadness, and somewhat doubt because she didn't want it to be Charles, was in my opinion a very good idea, and a smart one as well, as we've seen her be the one who's more closer to Charles within the series than any of the other crew members. And if that wasn't a big enough of a shock for you, we also find out who Charles's original is. And that reveal tells us that he, as well as knowing from the beginning that he was a clone, his original is in fact the King Noah Vix, the king of the Vixia royal quarters. Now, honestly, I think knowing this twist beforehand was kind of a hindrance to this episode. As I have stated, I've already read the manga, and I do kind of reread the manga as I review, just so I can kind of compare the two. But obviously, as you read something you've already read, things start coming back. But for me, I found this reveal of Charles being the traitor somewhat underwhelming. I remember reading the manga first of all, finding this out and going, oh my god, what has just happened? Really? Is that him? And I didn't get that with this. Mostly because I knew it was him. But if you consider all the facts, no other crew member could make a solid case for being the traitor, as they've all shown and shared a lot more information about themselves, as well as we've seen their parents. Unlike Charles, who we hardly know anything about, and if we take into his account his expressions especially when they were questioning him about the biology. It's all come across as being quite sketchy, and his character, all in all, has been quite hard to read. So, Charles has always been that one character that's always acted overly friendly, and we don't know anything about. Now you're probably thinking, how did they know it was Charles? Well, if we go back to the conversation of the comedy part in the middle of this episode with Kanata and Ares wanting to talk in there, in Ares' room, it's because Kanata wanted to confirm who was the last person that went through the wormhole. And thanks to her photographic memory, Ares stated it was Charles. So, this basically confirms that whoever was the last one to go through should be the traitor, because obviously the switch that we see Charles use in this episode to bring up and close down the wormhole, if that were to suddenly go through the wormhole itself, I would imagine a wormhole would kind of cease to exist. That's my sort of interpretation of this bit and how Kanata came to his understanding. And all in all, I think that was a smart way to go. But I want to know all of your thoughts down in the comment section below. Who did you think the traitor was before the start of this episode? And did you find the reveal of Charles being the traitor and Charles also being the clone of the king a shocking reveal? Or did you already know it, and did you find it underwhelming, or did you find it a good way to go about what they went with? I know that was hard to explain, there's a lot I just said, but anyway, just let me know your general thoughts on the episode. All in all, I like the episode for the most part. I would kind of liked it if they maybe went about the whole Earth situation a little bit more clearer. I found that to be a little bit confusing. I had to rewatch it a couple of times, but nevertheless, it was a good episode. Not the best episode that we've had in terms of comparing it to the other episodes, but it's certainly not one to miss if you have already missed it. Yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for this review. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new so you never miss a video from me. And until next time, I hope you will have an amazing day. And, well, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.